Allow me a moment to talk about my crazy ideas, okay? Sometimes I get these crazy ideas, all right? It's just what I do. So, as you know, I have the Rivian, the Model X, and then Model Y. It's not here right now. And I like my electric cars. I like to drive them. I like to travel. I like to do things. But when I think about traveling in my current cars, I don't want to, because my truck is a $95,000 truck. And my Tesla's a $95,000 Tesla. And my Model Y sure was only about 50-some thousand, but at the same time, I let my mom drive it most of the time. I don't even really consider it as, a car that I would normally drive because she drives it. So, I want a car that I can travel in. Now, there's no reason I can't travel in this one. It's just that I have a hard time wanting to put miles on a $95,000 car. I'm not going to drive it through New York knowing what kind of horrible roads New York has, what kind of horrible drivers New York has. I don't want to come back home dented or scratched or scuffed or, paint chipped or whatever. I hardly drive this car. I drive it around town here at home, and that's about it. I have an update. I don't want full self-driving beta, so I'm not going to update. Thank you anyway. 772 miles on this car. So I don't drive it much, but I do like to drive it. But I try to keep it around town, here at home, stuff like that. And that's about it. I don't take it. I love their not so good sensors that don't work. I don't take it anywhere because I just don't want to drive it and put a ton of miles on it. I mean, I like the car. I like going places in it. But I want to keep it nice for as long as possible. So really, my thing is, I want to get a car that I'm not afraid to travel in, that it wouldn't matter if I put 1,000,000 miles on it. And that 1,000,000 miles is a very strong number, because these cars use an older battery type. It's tried and true, and we know it works. It's worked for years. But these batteries are only technically rated for 500,000 miles. Got some leaves in there. 500,000 mile rating is where we're at. And beyond 500,000 miles, I mean, you're not technically supposed to get any more than that out of these batteries. That's just the way they work. We got some leaves everywhere. Anyway, it's normal to not get any more than 500,000 miles because that's what they're rated for. But the new LFP batteries that are coming out are supposedly rated for 1,000,000 miles. It's hard to do this without two hands. So, and here comes my other car. All right, well, we'll finish this in a second. Anyway, let me just sum up what I was trying to say here, because I got distracted, and yeah. I want to get a car that I'm comfortable traveling in. I'll go anywhere, it doesn't matter, not a problem. And one that I don't feel like I'm going to be out a whole lot of money once I put a ton of miles on it. This one, I feel like I would be out a lot of money when I put a ton of miles on it. My Rivian, I feel like I'd be out a lot of money if I put a ton of miles on it. My thing is, I had that Model 3 for the purpose of Toro. That was its purpose. And Toro didn't really work out the way I had intended on it working out. But I don't know, I guess I drove that car a lot, but I kept it for Toro, and when Toro didn't work, I felt like I needed to get rid of the car. And long story short, I'm thinking about getting on a Model 3. That's pretty much where we're at. No, not just a Model 3, a LFP Model 3. You know, with the new 1,000,000-mile battery. Because I feel like right now, the way they're priced, $32,000 after the tax credit, you know, it's a $30,000 car. And if I drive 1,000,000 miles and it's worth 0 at the end, then no big deal. It was $30,000. And I got 1,000,000 miles out of a $30,000 car. It's worth it. Now, will I? I don't know. People say, oh, you should never expect that. Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe I will get 1,000,000 miles. Maybe I won't. But I'm going to try. That's the goal. So at this point, I have to decide, do I get the current model or wait for the Highland? Because Highland would be nicer, but it's probably going to come with a bigger price tag. And that's not what I want. Matter of fact, if I could get it under 30, I would probably go ahead and pull the trigger now. But no guarantee on that. So yeah, that's the current thought. All right, I got to the point, but let me go further into the point now and waste 30 minutes of your time. I mean, kind of. Anyway, my attention has been brought to a Model 3. And I told you earlier my reasoning. I've got a lot of little reasons that kind of add up to this seems like a good idea. The biggest is, you know, the car is a $32,000 car, hopefully less. I'm actually hoping that sometime between now and December, they will do a price drop or some sort of incentive to try to do an end of year push. I got a message. I don't know. I don't know if they will or not. Really hope they do. That would kind of push me into, you know, pulling the trigger on it. It's a cheap car, and you know, the thing that I go back to is I could pull any one of my current cars and do this plan, but all of my current cars use the older cell type batteries that are rated for 500,000 miles. Now, will they actually make it to 500,000 without a failure? Probably not, but technically they're only rated for 500,000 miles. You should never expect to get more than that out of it without a battery replacement. Whereas with the newer LFP models, they're rated for 1,000,000 miles. You should never expect to get more than that out of it without a battery replacement. Will it make it to 1,000,000 miles? I doubt it. I really do. But whatever it can achieve, it already has an expectancy of double whatever the other ones can achieve. So all the other ones are more expensive in this case. So I have more to lose. And I get half of the performance that I would out of the LFP model. So, I don't know. It just makes a lot of sense. Sure, the LFP is not the best car in the world. It has like a hard cap of 170 kilowatt per hour. 170 kilowatt charging speed. Whereas the other ones can go 250, 252, I've seen. But, you know, 170 is not that bad. It's still a great traveling car, and it's very efficient because it's only one motor instead of 2 or 3 in the Plaid's case. So you get like 4 miles per kilowatt hour. So it can go really good. I don't know. It just overall seems like a good car, for what I want to do. And my thing is, I want to see if I can get it to 1,000,000 miles. That's kind of my thing. Like, back in the day when I was like, oh, I want to get a Tesla, I want to do this, I want to do that. My biggest thing was, I want to take a Tesla around the country. I want to go on a around the country tour in a Tesla to show that it can be done, to show how easy it is. And I feel like I did it. I did do it, but I feel like I did it really late. I feel like, you know, by the time I had done it, Several people had done it. The point had already been proven. So that was it. Now, what I want to do is I want to see if I can bring a car to 1,000,000 miles. That means me traveling in it a lot, because I like to travel and I like to drive. So it's not going to be an issue for me to put the miles on it. It's just, it's going to be a lot of miles. I'm going to go through a lot of tires to do that. Because that's basically the only maintenance you have to do to it is tires. So yeah, that's what I really want to do now. And there's probably someone else already working on this. There's probably already cars with 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 miles that we just haven't heard about yet. Cool, but this is something I want to do. I'm probably not going to be first at it, just like with the round the country trip, but it's something I'd like to do and see if it can be done. See just how far the car goes without a battery replacement. And I'm lenient. If something goes wrong that wasn't entirely the car's fault or wasn't entirely the battery's fault, I'm going to be lenient with that and be like, okay, cool, still didn't fail technically. Or if it did fail, then we'll say, okay, it failed at X miles, whatever. We'll see. I think it'd be fun. And I'm more likely to travel and want to travel in a car that didn't cost me as much money. The way I see it, when I run the car to the end of its life, it's worth $0. So if I did that to my Rivian, I just lost $90,000. If I do that to my Tesla, I just lost $90,000. Even if I took over my Y and gave my mom something else to drive, I still lost $60,000 because that's what I paid for it. Even though it's not worth that today, that's what I paid for it. So with the Model 3 being 32 after the tax credit, that's what I stand to lose. And I think that's a very reasonable amount 1,000,000 miles later, or if we're 700,000 miles later, who knows? We'll see. Anyway, that's my thought. That's my idea. If Tesla does any kind of incentive or price drop, the way I see it, right now, the car is $32,500, I think is what I come up with after the tax credit. $39,900 before the tax credit. Obviously, if Tesla did like $7,500 off and it still qualified for the tax credit, that's going to put it well under what I wanted it to be to buy it. I would prefer it to be about 28 or less. If it's 28 or less, I've already ordered it. So, another possible solution, Tesla did offer 3 years free supercharging on the S and X at one point. If they decide to bring that to the 3 at any point, that could be very enticing as well, because in 3 years, I could put a lot of miles on this car. I did some math, and if you gave up your $7,500 tax credit for free supercharging, at 50,000 miles, roughly, you would break even on that $7,500. So at 50,000 miles worth of supercharging, it's $7,500 equivalent. So 3 years free supercharging, or any kind of free supercharging at this point, even 1 year, I could make that happen. I bet I could put 50,000 miles on the car in a year. It would be a lot of traveling, but I could probably do it. Because that's the goal. That's the end goal with this car. I want to travel as much as possible in this car. I already have, I talk about going to Maine all the time because I have friends up there, and then we just had this whole thing go down in Maine that you've probably heard about in the news. That was right where my friends live. My one friend who lives there, he lives 2 miles each direction from the 2 locations that were attacked. So his house is like dead in the middle between the 2. So it's crazy. It's crazy to think that, even a small town, and I know Lewiston's not a small town. It's technically the second biggest in Maine, but in my opinion, it's a small town. We've got much bigger here that it just doesn't seem like a very big place to me, but it's the second biggest in the state. So, it is kind of, it hits at home because I've been there. I've gone to those places. It's just, It's crazy. Anyway, so yeah, I want to go back to Lewiston, want to visit my friends, and I can do that with a Model 3. I don't really want to drive anything I have through New York right now. As I said earlier in the video, I've driven through New York several times, and I get cut off. I get almost run off the road. I mean, it's crazy. And then you hit potholes, and you've got roads that just aren't very good. I would not take any one of my current 3 cars there. I did take the red one not long after I got it to Maine. I drove it there and back, and it was a great trip. And I don't know how I didn't get any rock chips on it. But I don't think I would do it again, not with any of the 3 cars that I own now. But I definitely would do it in the Model 3 because that's its intention. It's a traveling car. I don't know. This is just me talking, thinking out loud. I have plans. You know, I've got some plans that would make all this happen. If the price dropped tomorrow, I'd probably take out a loan on it just to go ahead and get it. But eventually I would get it paid off within, well, by the end of the year is the plan. And that would make it easier because a car that's paid for, you got less to lose in my opinion, because, you know, you don't have to worry about a bank or a payment or any of that. So anyway, that's the thought. That's my idea. And I like my electric cars. I have no problem going to a 4th electric car being all electric. I think that'd be fun. And I want a cheap car. Plus, I'm going to drive this thing to work too. That's going to be my work car because it's just so cheap and it does not going to hurt anything. I'll drive that thing everywhere. I'm still going to drive my X for leisurely things. I'm going to drive my truck as I need it. But the 3 is going to be the daily driver 24/7. Anyway, that's just the idea, and we'll see where it goes.